Okay, welcome back. We're talking about cable management and labeling. Next is console access, page 475. So if you have lots and lots of equipment, you don't really need a keyboard for every server and a mouse for every server and a monitor for every server. You can share those things. You can do all this remote if everything worked. However, there's some times when, doggone it, you actually need to be physically connected. So a KVM switch, this is the one that I have. A KVM switch allows me to I have two machines underneath my desk that mostly are turned off. And so I don't want to have two keyboards and two mice, two monitors and all the rest of that stuff. So I have a KVM switch. It has a little remote doodad. You can push a little button, 1 or 2, and it pops between the two servers. Kind of the way, this is kind of old school, I will tell you. Now, everything is KVM over IP, but that assumes everything is working, okay? Now, look, when things are working, that is fantastic. But when things don't work, you need to be physically in the server room. You need a physical KVM switch. Okay, and in the old days, sometimes you kind of sort of needed a serial port. For example, there are some old routers that, would send diagnostics out on a serial port. I don't know if they still exist. I hope not. Hopefully the monitoring port now is a RJ45 jack where you just jack in, okay? Straight cable to your laptop, right? No router, no switch, nothing. Just jack directly in. It brings up the console, you do your thing. But in the old days, we actually had to have like a spare laptop. It didn't have to be a very good laptop. A laptop with a serial card in it, because you can't buy laptops with serial ports anymore. A USB to serial adapter doodad. Remote desktop. So, yes, I want to allow me I'm the system administrator for the company. I want to sit at my desk, which is not in the server room, and then remotely log into the servers to see what's going on. Okay, I want to remotely log in using remote desktop. Okay, that ought to be very tightly controlled. Like, for example, from that single location, nowhere else in the company can I do that, and only my credentials. That would be the way I would do it. Like, this cube only, and this person only. Well, people, plural. I might have 2 computers and 4, system administrators, but you get the point. Can't roam anywhere in the building and be able to get to it, and I can't have anybody into it. Okay. And it could be your environment doesn't allow this at all. I mean, I've seen secure environments where they say, man, we're not going to do any remote at all. And then you have no choice but get your hiney out of your chair and walk to the server room and log in directly using like a KVM switch. Ugh. Okay, so there's a problem with doing remote access from a security point of view. Let's say, for example, that you did allow your administrator to sit at their desk and remote into the server. I'd want the same physical security as the server room. In other words, not a cube farm with no door. I'd want an office with a door with a lock, okay? So it's kind of sort of important that you provide the same physical security on the location that does have access to the servers, just as much as the physical security of the server room itself. Workbench. You probably need a space where you can like set things up and test things. This might be in the server room, maybe, and maybe not. We had a place, we called it the doghouse, and it was basically a workbench area where we could have stacks and stacks of computers sitting ready to be serviced, or provisioned and imaged and all that stuff, and a place where we had lots of power, electrical cords and network cords and all those kinds of things. Anti-static pads so we could do maintenance. I've seen this inside a server room. It'd be better if it was someplace else. And just remember, the server room is not your office, okay? There's a shaded area thing talking on page 477. It's not ergonomic. And in fact, there are certain places, certain server rooms are so noisy that by OSHA requirements, you're supposed to wear hearing protection. It's bad for the machines because heat and dirt, unless you're wearing a hairnet or a bunny suit, you're bringing contaminants into the room. Cost per square foot, that's probably the most expensive real estate in the entire company. And you want to put a desk there? You got to be kidding. That's a waste of very, very valuable square footage. And then you need a quiet place where you can sit, have all your reference materials around you that's comfortable from air conditioning and heat and noise, right? So, yeah, I want an ergonomic desk, right? I want an ergonomic chair. I don't want to be in the server room. Okay. Tools and supplies on page 477. So, I need spares. I need, little toolkits for taking things open. I need spare parts. I need cables. From software perspective, I need, network analyzers, that I could plug in and see what's going on. Packet sniffers like Wireshark so I can diagnose what the heck is going on here. I need, like those little plastic carts so I don't have to lift, big heavy things and tote them all around. I can throw a PC on one of those little goofy plastic carts and then, haul it around the organization, right? Okay, good. And then, lockers and shelves and drawers where I can keep some of the spares. Now, some of that you could probably keep in the server room, but some of it, we kept an awful lot of that stuff in the doghouse. For example, if we were to pull a hard drive from a machine and replace it, we always kept the old hard drive for, so many days, so many months before we would wipe it, because there's always somebody going to say, but wait, I forgot to copy this file. So we have, a cabinet with all these, hard drives that have been pulled, and we keep them for however long we need it. So, yeah, lockers, shelves, cabinets, drawers. Okay, we've reached the end of this chapter, and stay tuned for the next chapter.